I don't wanna act too high and mighty, cause tomorrow I may fall down on my face. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day.
Sometimes life is good, but then the trouble comes my way. But whatever happens, Lord, I thank you for this day. But when I'm feeling troubled, I lift my hands and pray that your will be done in the rain or sun. No, it's a beautiful day.
I don't wanna act too high and mighty, cause tomorrow I may fall down on my face. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day.
I give her thanks when I'm feeling lonely. I give her thanks when I'm feeling glad. I give her thanks in the morning and a thanks in the evening and a thanks when I'm feeling sad.
I don't wanna act too high and mighty, cause tomorrow I may fall down on my face. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Kingdom of Context. I'm Sean. I want to thank you for joining us here for our Sabbath Fellowship live stream. And I'm joined by my lovely wife, Lindsay.
Hey guys, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, sweetie.
Shabbat Shalom, babe.
Thank you guys, everyone in the live chat here. If you are wondering, what is this? What is this Sabbath Fellowship thing? If you're not already observing the Sabbaths, the weekly Sabbaths, it's you're missing out. It's one of the easiest parts of our discipleship to Christ and to God. And it is a joy. It's a blessing that you get to actually take a day off, stress and worry of this world, and just focus on the Father, focus on your family, read scripture, just get some rest. It's a good day. So thank you for being here, everybody. And today we're going to pick up the continued studies with Daniel the prophet. Now, we already went through the book of Daniel. Then we also went through Bel and the dragon. And now we're going to look at the book of Susanna,
Yes.
to which I need to get that pulled up
And
as you talk.
It's called the 13th chapter of Daniel, or considered.
Yeah, in ancient canons, it was considered the 13th chapter.
Well, while you pull that up, I just wanted to apologize to everyone for being so emotional last week. I would prefer to have control over that aspect of my face and my tear ducts and all that. Kind of just felt like this sudden attack, like right before the show started. All of a sudden, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to cry." So I just want to apologize to anyone who may have thought I was heated or anything last week. I really was just feeling very overly emotional, and I just want to apologize. I would like to get better self-control as time goes on. So
Okay. Let's do this here. Okay. Oh, there we go. Come on, you can do it. There you go. It's not doing it. It's weird. Okay. So the book of Susanna. So this is just to give you some setting here. They're already in exile.
Okay.
Okay. So what's fascinating about this is we get to like look a little bit into. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not adjusting the size like that.
Strange.
It's struggling. So they're already in exile. They're like they're going to be taking care of their own affairs in exile. I've got to figure something out. What's going on here? 1 second.
Is this book written from the standpoint of a woman named Susanna?
It's about Susanna.
Okay. So it's not like the other chapters in Daniel where it's Daniel talking about
No.
or describing something Daniel's been through.
No.
Okay.
No. But basically Daniel gets called in as one of the judges that has to determine this case.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because there's a false accusation made in this case about Susanna, and Daniel has to play detective. This is Knives Out from like ancient days. Okay. So, all right. Susanna chapter 1, it says, there dwelt in Babylon a man in Babylon called Joachim, and he took a wife whose name was Susanna, the daughter of Chalcias, a fair woman, the one that feared the Lord. Her parents also were righteous and taught their daughter according to the law of Moses. Now Jehoiakim was a great rich man, had a fair garden joining unto his house, and to him resorted the Jews, because he was more honorable than all others. I guess that means they visited him.
Yeah.
Right. The same year were appointed two of the ancients of the people to judges, such as the Lord spoke of, that wickedness came from Babylon from ancient judges, who seemed to govern the people. These kept much at Joachim's house. So these judges stayed at Joachim's house, and all that had any suits in law came unto them. Now, when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk. And the two elders saw her going in every day and walking, so that their lust was inflamed toward her. And they perverted their own mind and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven, nor remember just judgments. And albeit they both were wounded with her love, yet did not show one another his grief. For they were ashamed to declare their lust, that they desired having to do with her. Yet they watched diligently from day to day to see her. And the one said to the other, so basically these are some peepers, right?
Yeah.
These are some,
yeah.
She's got some simps, and these are men who should not be thinking like this, because they're supposed to be judges who are visiting her husband's house. And one said to another, let us now go home, for it's dinner time. So when they were gone out, they parted one from the other, and turning back again, they came to the same place. And after that, they asked one another the cause. They acknowledged their lust, and then appointed they a time together when they might find her alone. And fell it out, as they watched for a fit time, she went in as before with two maids only, and she was desirous to wash herself in the garden, for it was hot. And there was no body there to save the two elders that had hid themselves and watched her. And then she said to her maids, bring me oil and washing balls, and shut the garden doors, that I may wash me. And they did as she instructed them, and shut the garden doors, and went out themselves as privy doors to fetch the things that she had commanded them. But they didn't see the elders, because they were hidden. Now, so the elders have hidden inside the garden after they closed Susanna in to take a bath.
Right.
When the maids were gone forth, the two elders rose up and ran unto her, saying, behold, the garden doors are shut. You know what? I need to do a much more creepier voice, right?
No, you don't.
We can't
Please don't. No.
We can't do the Gaston voice. We've got to do a much more creepier voice. So they said to her, behold, the garden doors are shut. That's pretty creepy. Let's not do that one. So that no man can see us, and we're in love with you, because therefore consent unto us and lie with us. So, yuck. So we have some brazen men here that are just running up to the married woman while she's taking a bath, saying, "Sleep with us. And if you will not, we will bear witness against you that a young woman was with you, and therefore you did send away your maids from you."
That a young man was.
Excuse
with
me,
you.
that a young man was with you. Then Susanna sighed and said, "I am straitened on every side, for if I do this thing, it's death unto me, and if I do not, I cannot escape your hands. It's better for me to fall into your hands and not do it than to sin in the sight of the Lord." Because remember, these guys were judges.
Yeah.
So when they bring the false claim to the
Right.
rest of the
People are going
judges,
to take them seriously.
yeah. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and the two elders cried against her. Then ran the one and opened the garden door. So she followed Deuteronomy 22
Mhm.
because her parents taught her the law of Moses.
Yeah.
So when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at the privy door to see what was done unto her. But when the elders had declared their matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, for there was never such a report made of Susanna. And it came to pass the next day, when the people were assembled to her husband Jehoiakim, two elders came also full of mischievous imagination against Susanna to put her to death, and said before the people, "Send for Susanna, the daughter of Chelcias, Joachim's wife." And so they sent for her. So she came with her father and mother, her children, and all her kindred. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Now Susanna was a very delicate woman and beauteous to behold. And these wicked men commended to uncover her face, for she was covered, that they might be filled with her beauty. Therefore her friends and all that saw her wept. Then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people and laid their hands upon her head. And she weeping looked up toward heaven, for her heart trusted in the Lord. And the elders said, "As we walked in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids and shut the garden doors and sent the maids away. Then a young man who was there came unto her and lay with her. And then we that stood in a corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran unto them. And when we saw them together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door and leaped out. But having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was, but she would not tell us. These things do we testify." Then the assembly believed them, that those that were the elders and judges of the people, so they condemned her to death. Then Susanna cried out with a loud voice and said, "O everlasting God, that knows the secrets and knows all things before they be, you know that they have borne false witness against me, and behold, I must die, whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me." And the Lord heard her voice. Therefore she was led to be put to death. And the Lord raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth whose name was Daniel, who cried out with a loud voice, "I am clear from the blood of this woman." Then all the people turned them toward him and said, "What do you mean, these words that you've spoken?" So he, standing in the midst of them, said, "Are you such fools, you sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth, you've condemned the daughter of Israel? Return again to the place of judgment." By the way, he's following the law of Moses right here too.
Yeah.
"Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. To the crime scene." Wherefore all the people turned again in haste. And the elders said unto him, "Come, sit down among us and show it to us, seeing God has given you the honor of an elder." Then said Daniel unto them, "Put these two aside, one far from another, and I will examine them." So we're going to have
Interrogations.
separate interrogations to see if the stories match, baby. You think CSI invented this? No. This is Special Victims Unit BC. All right. So then it goes to, so when they were put asunder one from another, he called one of them and said unto him, "Are you that are waxen old in wickedness? Now your sins which you have committed aforetime are come to light. For you have pronounced false judgment, and have condemned the innocent, and have let the guilty go free. Albeit the Lord says, the innocent and righteous shall not slay." I wonder, he's saying your old wickedness has come to light.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's been a precedent of something like this. Previous accusations.
He's saying that you've
Yeah.
pronounced false judgment and have condemned the innocent and let the guilty go free. So the let the guilty go free part is not something we've seen so far in this
Right.
narrative. So
So it's
yeah,
like-
it looks like this is something they're known for.
It's like Daniel's been taking notes.
Yeah.
Now then, if you have seen her, tell me, under what tree saw you them together, companying together? Who answered, under a mastic tree. And Daniel said, very well, you have lied against your own head, for even now the angel of God has received the sentence of God to cut you in two. And so he put him aside and commanded to bring the other, and said unto him, "O you, seed of Canaan, and not of Judah, beauty hath deceived you, and lust has perverted your heart. This is that I did not
Wow.
remember that this passage was here,
Wow.
because this is what I've been talking about from Jubilees for years.
Yeah.
Is the term seed of Canaan and seed of Amalek.
It's a heart thing.
It's all about the heart.
Yeah.
It's all about the heart.
Because these are judges of Israel. So,
Yes.
of course, they're of Judah.
Yes.
Wow.
Thus you have dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they for fear accompanied with you. But the daughter of Judah would not abide your wickedness. Look, it has happened before.
Yeah.
Now, therefore, tell me, under which tree did you take them accompanying together? Who answered, under a holm tree. Then Daniel said unto him, well, you have also lied against your own head, for the angel of God waits with the sword to cut you in two, that he may destroy you. With that, all the assembly cried out with a loud voice and praised God, who saved them that trust in him. And they arose against the two elders, for Daniel had convicted them of false witness by their own mouth. And according to the law of Moses, they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do to their neighbor. And they put them to death. Thus the innocent blood was saved the same day. Therefore Calcius and his wife praised God for their daughter Susanna, with Joachim her husband and all the kindred, because there was no dishonesty found in her. From that day forward was Daniel had in great reputation in sight of the people.
Interesting. I wonder if that's the first chapter of Daniel.
This is why I told you Jerome put this as the first chapter of Daniel, because it says he was a youth.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Jerome's Latin Vulgate, he put this as the first chapter of Daniel. So that's wild. That's wild. Thoughts, sweetie? I kind of shared some of mine as we went.
Honestly, the most profound thing to stand out from all of it is that part where Daniel, calls out the heart issue there and aligns them with Canaanites.
Yeah, that's right. So she appeals to the Father for justice with her prayer. Daniel stands up saying something's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's interesting that they could have both said the same tree, and then what would he have done? Right.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that they incriminated themselves. And here's the thing, that means that everyone listening, without a shadow of a doubt, knew the difference between a mastic and a holm tree. No, I'm not joking. Like,
yeah,
there's no room in anyone's mind. There's no shadow of a doubt in anyone's mind that, he could have just been mistaken. Maybe it was a holm tree, the first guy, right? And so he said mastic, maybe he meant holm tree, right? That means they all knew what trees looked like. And nobody within a shadow of a doubt thought that these two could get these trees wrong like this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting, because the average person today doesn't have a clue what they're looking at when they look at a tree. They don't know what it is.
Typically not.
So it's just interesting
Maybe some
that
basics.
like there's some things assumed in here that they knew exactly that there would be no reason for them to not get the right tree together. And it's just interesting to me that he is following the law of God to examine the matter. And this is the only time that I can think of that we get in a scriptural passage where that rule from Deuteronomy that the judges and elders would look at the matter and examine it to be true for the accusation. Let it be judged by 2 or 3, to establish the matter, that we get to see some of that process of how they actually would examine the matter.
It also stands out to me that, this means they've got some kind of Sanhedrin set up in Babylon.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Think about this. This is fascinating, because just like Jeremiah told them in chapter 51 or 50, buy homes, plant vineyards.
Yeah.
Pray for the welfare.
Settle in.
Pray for the welfare of the country you're going into.
Get married,
and
have kids.
This dude is a wealthy, respected man in exile who's got so much wealth. He's got his own private garden.
Yeah.
To which people want to come collaborate at his house.
Mm-hmm.
The judges of Israel collaborate at their house. They're seemingly having the authority to judge their own matters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is very similar to the same scenario we see in the first century in the days of
with
Yeshua.
Rome. Yeah.
Rome still governed over them, but they were
Right.
allowed to judge their own matters, buy their own land,
Mhm.
live in their, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
So it's very interesting how there's a similarity here of just them. This is the fulfillment of what Jeremiah said they should do.
Yeah.
And they're doing it like to the nth degree,
Yeah.
where apparently they went ahead and killed this guy, or these two guys.
Or did they kill him or did the angels do it?
Well, I don't know if, I mean, he's saying the angels waits to cut you in two, but
But then the people put them to death.
I don't know exactly the
It
connotation
says
here.
it says they put
I
them to
get
death.
it, but what I'm saying is like, I don't know if Daniel is using the verbiage to like inflict fear that, hey, God is standing in judgment, waiting to slay you, meaning that you're not going to escape this.
Yeah.
But then the practical application is that
It
the
happens
people
through
actually
assembly.
carry out the death
Yeah.
sentence. Or if it's a phrase of agency to where it's now referring to the angel of God as the messenger of the priest that would be in charge of carrying out the death penalty, because it just means the messenger of God. So there's a couple places in the New Testament where men or messengers of God are referred to as the messengers, the angels of God sent by God, that are just men.
Yeah.
Either way, the point is, they're not appealing to Rome for the death penalty here.
Yeah. They're not appealing to Babylon.
They're carrying out their own affairs. They're dealing with their own communities.
I do, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of legal thing going on by the time Rome is in control in terms of executions.
Yeah.
Although, you do have the Pharisees just like picking up rocks to just stone people. And it does look like the Jews themselves were killing plenty of Christians, throughout the time of the book of Acts. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that it's like they needed it. It's like there was some kind of loophole they had to do to have Rome.
Well, I think it was because Herod sent him to Pilate. Right. So
Right.
the brute squad that Paul was formerly a part of that just killed people, they already had permission from Rome to carry out to enact rebellion, what they would consider rebellion against their leadership.
Yeah.
But in the case of Christ's, trial, if you will, Herod first looked at him and then sent him to Pilate. So that's why it got escalated to Roman authority.
Interesting.
Because Herod was an Idumean, so he wasn't part of Rome. He was also a vassal king under Rome's authority, but just regionally over that area. So it got escalated to a higher authority. So anyway, yeah, this is a fascinating story about.
God bless you, Gina.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah. This is a fascinating story about a woman of righteousness being vindicated for her righteousness, a woman of beauty being attacked by some pervs, and being falsely accused, and then being vindicated, just because she can't help it because she's attractive. You know what I'm saying? And it's just one of those things to where it's like it just makes you wonder, at what point did these men think that this was okay? Because clearly they did it before.
Yeah, it sounds like this was their MO, and that they were used to being able to intimidate women into doing whatever they wanted because of their positions of power.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's pretty disgusting.
But it is an incredible parallel to the days of Christ, right? Where you had judges that were not worthy of being judges, that were considered sons of Gehenna, according to Christ, whitewashed tombs. And yeah, guys, we corrected ourselves. We know that Daniel's in Babylon, not Rome. We're making comparisons.
We were comparing the two.
We're making comparisons.
We're comparing executions done by Judah under Babylon versus executions done by Judah under Rome. That's all.
So yeah, it's fascinating.
I'm also intrigued by the part that said her face was covered.
Yeah, there's other translations I've read that it just says they asked her to be uncovered, and this one specifies that it's her face, and the other ones you kind of feel like they're asking her to actually uncover her body, which I don't know if that would have been acceptable in the sight of all the people, because clearly there were people that were watching this. That's another thing. This isn't handled privately. This is like the whole family's there.
Yeah,
like this is like a court scene.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So this is fascinating. And why did they cry when she uncovered her face? I'm not sure. I don't know. Was she bruised from them apprehending her? Did they hit her or something? I don't know.
I mean, did she have to cover her face on a regular basis because she was so beautiful that there were just like predators around?
And then whenever she uncovered her face, people just wept in tears of joy. Is that what we're doing?
I don't know. Because the only other time we see a veil over the face is with Tamar, right? I mean, I'd have to go like do a word search, I guess. I don't have an encyclopedic memory of the Bible, but as far as I can recall, the only other time we've seen actual face covered of a woman is Tamar when she was in the garb of
when she was acting like a
a
prostitute.
prostitute.
Yeah.
So
Only when she was acting like a prostitute.
and I know Moses covered his face, but that was for a totally different context. So
Right.
just for anyone who thinks I might have forgotten about Moses, that was like totally different story.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently this is a large garden because they were, it's apparently large enough for them to hide.
Yes,
You know?
with and door. I mean, it sounds like there's a big gate somehow. I mean, it's and some sort of spring or
Yeah.
pool.
So you remember when I told
Sounds
you in the
very
future,
luxurious.
when we're building our home and I wanted to build a walled off orchard, this was in my mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. To have a walled off, not with a bathing area, but to have it, because we can't do that here in the mountains.
Yeah.
You would never find a day,
Not
even during the
not
summer,
Wyoming.
where you would be bathing outside like that.
No,
But either way-
possibly in the summer.
Oh, no, baby. No.
Yes.
Not where I want to build the house. It's way too, the altitude's way too high. Anyway, unless you just like polar bear dipping, but that's up to you. But the point is, I would love, whether in this life or in the kingdom, I would love to have a walled off orchard, a little pathway and trees you walk through and go to pray, reflect, meditate, walk, that kind of stuff. I think that'd be beautiful. And it literally be walled off. And so, systematically within the walls, I would have pop out turrets for invaders so that I could mow people down if they ever try to invade. But that's only in this life. Obviously in the kingdom, I wouldn't need those. Either way. So that is the book of Susanna. It is quite the story.
It's quite the little read.
Quite the story. But what is so interesting about it to me is that it would be a very fitting, appropriate addition to the book of Daniel.
This chapter,
The book of Susanna, yes.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
see any theological reason for that to have been pulled out.
Yeah, we gave it the thumbs up on Honor of Kings a few years ago. Ken and I reviewed this, but it just it's emphatically not just mentioning that people are following the law of Moses, but they're like actually applying it and showing you how it works for the benefit of the innocent and maintaining proper justice. And that's, to me, that's just like, why would you even think about taking this out? It makes no sense.
Walls around large gardens. I think there could be a number of reasons, because living in a place like we live, walls around gardens are absolutely not for sheep, but in our area, it would be speed goats. Down in the Colorado area would be more the deers. But also, if you think about it, it talks about her bathing. So I think walls around the garden weren't just about protecting from something coming and eating. I think a garden may be a little different back then, because I don't know that they had big grassy yards like we do in Babylon back then. I don't think the cities looked like that.
Well, clearly there's trees inside.
So there's plants there, but I don't know. Like, I think I picture a garden with walls around it, and I think of Secret Garden. I think of like all kinds of foliage and a big, but I think this might have been more like a private bathing area, and possibly the garden part is things that were planted up to be part of the wall that gives privacy.
No, I think there's an actual wall with gates, as the text says. I think the guy's wealthy, as the text says.
Yeah.
And he can afford to have people build a wall for him.
Yeah.
Right. So it could have been large. It just could have been, he has the wealth to do it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of norm. Like, people did this all the time back then. Building a wall wasn't super expensive back in the day.
Yeah.
Just take us back 130 years ago, and you could find people to build a wall for you. And they just call it a day's work. They didn't make it such a big deal about like they do today and be like, oh yeah, that'll be $100,000 for 3 feet. Like, the contracting business has got out of control in the United States. So this was not an uncommon idea for them to just have a wall built. And I think it was because they didn't have indoor bathing.
Mhm.
So therefore,
anywhere
if you're wealthy and you didn't want to go down to the local watering hole, by the way, that was also something in that. So that book that I mentioned, where there's like 8 full volumes,
The Apostolic
Constitutions, they talk about public bathing. And how the women should never go to the public bathing when the men are there, and that kind of stuff, and how they should, and if they just all the details about
guidelines,
putting yourself in danger, right?
Yeah,
just putting yourself in these situations you shouldn't be
absolutely.
in. So clearly, her husband didn't want her to have to do anything like that.
You mean back then they didn't just teach the men not to be misogynistic rapists, babe?
Yeah.
I thought that was the solution. You don't tell women not to put themselves in dangerous situations. You just tell the men to not be dangerous dudes. Wow, they weren't even telling them back then. Unbelievable.
Yeah, sarcasm rich. All right, so basically, this is a unique book that I think should have been included in the book of Daniel. Personally, after going through it and seeing that, oh man, this validates the law of God. This is a more introduction to who Daniel is, and Daniel standing up to his own people now.
Yeah,
like the book of Daniel just shows him standing up to the other kings of the pagan gods. This is him standing up to his own people.
Yeah.
So just makes you wonder. Well, Westcott and Hort, you know, preaching this dispensationalism, promoting Zionism, you know, just makes you wonder. Just makes you wonder.
I'm not sure I'm getting
Just makes you wonder.
the references. I'm not as educated on you as Westcott and Hort. I don't know
So
what that means.
140 years ago, when we would have had the KJV with this still in it as a part of the Apocrypha, and you start printing new Bibles with Westcott and Hort in the days in the 1880s, and suddenly a lot of these apocryphal books disappear, and you wonder why, because there's so many prophecies of Christ, and there's a book like this which chastises the judges and the elders of Israel.
Yeah, I wonder
wickedness.
if this is still in the Catholic Bible.
It's considered a part of the Apocrypha, so for many of them it is.
Okay.
Yes. So it's just interesting. Guys, if you have any questions about something we read today or some scriptures, you're welcome to put those in the live chat. You're welcome to use all caps to get our attention, or to get the mods' attention for your question, and because otherwise we may miss it. But we'll go ahead and go into our Q&A time. It's okay. We get new people all the time. I don't know, Daniel. Daniel's saying, was there a wall around the garden where they took Messiah? I'm guessing you're talking about the Garden of Gethsemane. And I can't remember the text if it mentioned specifically a wall surrounding it, but it's possible.
That's a good point. Today it's reversed. Men need to be taught women are dangerous and vicious. Men need to be taught to be looking out for Potiphar's wife these days. Yep. We got these false accusations against Susanna, and we've got similar false accusations with Joseph and Potiphar's wife. So yeah, both issues are addressed in scripture.
Yeah. Both are real life problems.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also, this is kind of another female that kind of has been erased, that's got a good story to tell, that's a good example of a righteous woman who's vindicated through God. It's just, that's the other sad thing. I'm not speaking from any kind of feminist standpoint, I just think it's kind of a bummer that some people, for some canons, decided, oh yeah, this one chapter or these two chapters, because I think Bell and the Dragon seems like it should be fine to stay in Daniel as well. I didn't see anything problem with that. Yeah,
again, it's just him proving that idols are nothing, and they shouldn't be worshipped.
Yeah, Susanna is chapter 13 in Daniel in the Catholic Bible.
And Bell and the Dragon is considered chapter 14 in many of the different books, different Bibles.
I've got a Catholic Bible that my uncle sent me that was like my grandparents and stuff. I'll have to dig that out one of these days because it is quite thick.
Most people do not realize that most people growing up in America they're very insulated to the rest of the world. They don't realize there are different Christian communities out there with different Bibles.
Still to this day, it's not like, they all decided now we're just on 66. Like, if you haven't heard this, there's multiple canons. Ethiopia has the largest canon. They've got like 81 books. So, we didn't just decide anything.
All right, guys, put your questions in and make sure they're actual question. Carmel is asking, can you explain the mechanics on how hyssop, scarlet, and blood and water make soap? Can I explain the mechanics as far as, like, I'm guessing more like the biology of it, like the science of it? because the mechanics were they put these ingredients together and with the ash of the heifer in order to make the soap, to my understanding.
Well, Sean has never said that they literally physically make soap. There is still a process involved. What Sean has talked about in the past is it's interesting that God commands them to take the ashes of the heifer and put it into water, and that water is then used for cleansing, because anyone who's an old school soap maker like me knows that wood ash in water, sitting in water, creates lye, and lye, when added to fat, makes soap. So we're not really sure. I have always felt there's must be some form of soap making going on at some aspect, because lye is also a chemical that can burn you. So I don't know how they were just, dripping this lye water basically on their hands. Although I've never made lye from wood ash, so it could be very much less caustic than the lye that I've bought from the hardware store.
But they made it from heifer ash. Yeah.
Oh yes, you're right. But there's wood wood ash in that, right?
But the point of the ashes,
But
was
it
from the
is heifer ash, so it could be there could be something
So,
different about that.
Also, the blood was sprinkled, which we're assuming that was for a consecration, a cleansing.
Yeah, the blood
concept.
wasn't like mixed in.
I don't think the blood was mixed
with
in
the water to
specifically
make
with the water.
soap.
No. So what does the hyssop and the scarlet do? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know what the internal, scientific ingredients of scarlet and hyssop that would, kind of make for. And we're talking about just a scarlet thread, which is what most people interpret, or is there some ancient herb or thing that was called scarlet that we're not aware of today? So
Possibility.
yeah, it's the best as far as I can just understand is what the scripture is describing for the process for how they made a cleansing agent. But as far as the science behind it, I don't have the best understanding of it. All right. Depart from Evil is asking, if people came to genuine faith in Christ but learned things like the Trinity, eternal hell, etc., should I be concerned telling them the truth despite them having genuine faith? What's the danger?
That's a great question.
Despite them having genuine faith, what's the danger? Should I be concerned with telling them the truth? Well, of course. I mean, the idea of, well, it depends on your relationship with them, for one, right? If these are people in your family, and if this has become a point of contention where it's causing them to misunderstand other parts of the Bible, there's nothing wrong with you sharing the actual the way of God more accurately to them, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But as far as did the Father give them a genuine deposit of the Spirit because they genuinely turned to Him and they're still just needing to learn better about the knowledge of God? Well, this is why we have teachers. I mean, this is literally why we have teachers, because people don't come in with good understanding. They come in with raw faith. And Yahweh honors that raw faith and drops the deposit of the Spirit in them without them having good understanding or good doctrine yet. That's the point of teachers, is to help bring them along. So I don't know your circumstance. I don't know who you're speaking of. I don't know what's the context here. But if you're in a position of, if you're talking about like your family and you're the patriarch of the family, and you're wanting to help them understand better, more accurately the knowledge of God, then sure, you can talk to them about it. Sure. Is it, what is the danger? What do you think he's meaning by what's the danger? Like not telling them or telling them?
It could be either or. I think if he's asking what is the danger of not telling them, I would say there's no danger. I think in our community, in most Christian communities, it's one thing that we can get caught up in is judging another person's salvation based on their doctrine, not their profession of faith in Christ, and not any other fruit that we've seen come from them. We come to believe a certain thing about a doctrine and it being false, and then we automatically think, well, if I believe that false doctrine, I won't truly be following God. That's not true. That's not true. So I would say if you're asking what's the danger for you, you're not in any danger. You're not being commanded to go to that person and correct their theology. If they come and ask you, it's a great time to share. That's what I always encourage people. Instead of just bringing it up yourself and deciding they're in error and I need to save them from that error, let the Holy Spirit convict them on whatever it is. And you just be the kind of person that shines a light and a peace that makes them comfortable to come ask you about it. If you're asking what's the danger for them, if you don't tell them, I would also say none. I don't think you're going to go to the lake of fire for not telling them that the Trinity is false. And I don't think they're going to go to the lake of fire for believing in the Trinity.
Yeah. A lot of people use the Ezekiel 3 passage way out of context.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, we're not Ezekiel. We're not speaking to the people in Ezekiel's day who are worshiping idols of God in the tabernacle of Yahweh, using it as a placeholder place as a temple, as a rent-a-temple
Yeah.
for their false gods. Like we're not in that scenario. We're not watchmen on the walls in any of that scenario. And we're not being told directly by an angel that you must go give this message or else the blood is on your hands.
Yeah.
We're just having discussions about the way of God more accurately.
Yeah.
Like there's a context to Ezekiel 3. So the reason I'm saying this, because I see people run around all the time saying, I have to tell you, brother, the blood won't be on my hands.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, bro. Wait a minute. For one, you're not Ezekiel. For two, an angel didn't show up to you and tell you that you have to go tell me this message or else the blood is on your hands. Three, whatever you think I'm wrong about is not causing the death of other people because it's not idolatry and or leading to the destruction and invasion of Jerusalem. So there's a whole bunch of context we have to keep in mind when we just willy-nilly throw around Ezekiel 3. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone who kind of wants to kick back at that the moment they hear us saying that, because you're just so convinced, yeah, that's a universal command. We have to tell people they're in sin. I would just ask you, then why aren't you doing all the other things Ezekiel was commanded to do? He was commanded to lay on his side for like over a year to represent things. He was commanded to create an entire model of Jerusalem out of clay and like simulate the destruction of Jerusalem. He was commanded to cook his food over dung. He was commanded to cut his hair and split it into different pieces, and like one part he was supposed to cut with a sword. Like he was commanded to do a whole bunch of other things. So I would just encourage you to reflect on, if you think that command to Ezekiel to tell the children of Israel at that time these very specific things also applies to you telling basically every other Christian you think is wrong about some doctrine, or their blood's going to be on your hands. Just ask yourself, well, why am I not doing all the other things Ezekiel has commanded? And if the answer is because I understand the context of those commands and those were commanded for Ezekiel at that time, not for me at this time, then I would conclude with asking myself, okay, then why am I applying this other command to myself as well?
And why just Ezekiel? Why aren't you walking around naked like Isaiah?
True. Why don't you have a big yoke on your neck like Jeremiah?
Put your own stocks on your back for a year and walk around like Jeremiah.
Go marry
what is this subjective? Oh, I only must do this specific command to Ezekiel and be a jerk about it to telling everybody they're in sin, less blood is on my hands. Or what if we just took all these things in the context that they're given as an example of a lesson for us, and we did the example and the admonition of the teachers, elders, and apostles, and just regular people in the New Testament, to where they just pulled people aside and had Bible studies with them, and then just tried to share with them lovingly, not from a position as if we've been put in the place of a prophet, because no one has. You're not put in the place of a prophet. Yeah. So this is where, now that's what we would say. Now, clearly there's churches out there that these, you could just flip on TikTok any day of the week and you can find somebody calling themselves Prophet Nathaniel. You know what I'm saying? I'm Prophet Sharia. You can find a whole bunch of people calling themselves prophets, male and female, on the internet, but they're in error. That's not how prophets work either. You don't just get to name yourself a prophet.
Yeah.
It's not how that works. All right. Flatless is asking, why is there not a focus on the Great Commission, Matthew 28, in the Torah community? People rarely talk about evangelism and apologetics.
Another great question.
Well, Flatless, something we've tried to address for a long time and that we've been addressing more emphatically in the past months. That is a huge problem within the Torah community. It's because many of the vibes that roll around the Torah community is isolation, and not evangelism. So this is some ministries preach it explicitly and overtly. Others give off those vibes,
and
very,
just don't
very subtly, and
don't do the evangelism,
and do not teach on evangelism, but instead just give off the vibes of we must retract and quote unquote escape from the mainstream churches. Let Yah pull you out of the mainstream churches and don't go back to that pagan idolatry and all that kind of language, to where it just causes people to be excluded from where they are, as opposed to what we see in the book of Acts, which is Priscilla and Aquila seeing someone not a part of their little group, but preaching boldly and refuting the Jews in public debate, and goes up to them and pulls them aside and teaches them the way of God more accurately. Right. And So that's a quote unquote internal evangelism.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, the outward evangelism, which we see blatantly through the apostles and Paul, to which, there are going to the people who don't know, even to the point of Paul and Barnabas going to the temple of Athena and standing amongst all the Greeks and saying, let me tell you about this God who resurrected, or so the son who, the God who resurrected his son. And they were intrigued and wanted to hear more, right? So like there is, an abundance of instruction for us to go to the nations with the story of Christ, as well as to go to do internal critiques and internal evangelism within our own body of believers. But many Torah observant groups don't talk like that. They don't teach on that. They just teach this isolationist mentality, which we're starting to address on our channel because we don't feel like it's productive. It's not scriptural. It just causes people to start to act like they want to go live in the woods in their own commune. And that's just not biblical.
Yeah, we seem to really struggle in this crowd with the same spirit that Peter was struggling with. They had to be corrected on, where he came from this culture that taught him that anyone that was not of his culture was like an unclean thing that couldn't be touched. You can't break bread with them. No truth can come from them. And, I think, the devil had a long time to prepare for the Deuteronomy 30 awakening, you guys. And I think, it's really lost on this community that he's been waiting to pounce because he knew a time would come where God's people were going to remember his ways. So he's been attacking the church since it was birthed, since Christ ascended. Well, he's been attacking the church since way before that, but the Christian church has been under attack of the enemy from the start. And I don't know why our community thought our community would be any different, but he's been waiting for this to happen. And so, in my opinion, there have been doctrines of demons set aside for us to be fed from before we even started to wake up. And they come from the same spirit that had the Pharisees in the kind of heart that they had, where the Pharisees were creating a performance-based faith where it's not your profession of faith and your outward fruits that speak to the fact that you truly have had a deposit of the Spirit. It's you must be doing these outward things that we say are proof of your faith. And if you're not, then you're not in our faith. And we have succumbed to that same spirit in this community. And I also think that we have a lot of influence from Judaism in our community, and Judaism is anti-evangelism. Judaism does not believe the Torah is for the nations. Judaism does not believe in inviting people to come join in covenant with the God of creation. Judaism, it's not an evangelistic religion. And we have so much influence from that religion in our community by default because people have kind of wrapped themselves in that. People have come to believe that traditions from Judaism are somehow okay and not tied to paganism, but anything that comes from Christianity is bad and all tied to paganism. So
which is Judaism's argument, by the way.
Yes. So people come into this community, we kind of fall into this trap of being influenced by the same spirit in Judaism that says, don't go tell those people they're unclean. They're unwashed masses. I think we come into realizing, oh, wow, I'm grafted into the nation of Israel. Like there's this whole culture of Israel. And then, we fail this test of our heart when we turn around and we look at the nations and we're like, ew, look at all their cultures. Look at all the traditions that they have. Look at all the cultural folk traditions that they do. This is all so weird and gross and demonic, and it must be pagan. And we get really superstitious and paranoid. And God's just really been taking me through a season lately, last few years, where he's calming me down on all of that, where, I don't look out at the nations of human beings that he created and think, oh my gosh, yuck, I can't touch, that's unclean.
Meanwhile, Christ told us to go to the nations.
And I was just about to get there, where, Christ went to the nations. He went to the sick and the tax collectors and the sinners and the people that the Pharisees, the people who were outwardly religious and doing all the outward performance of faith, wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, So I think, unfortunately, we have been set up to, to be tested on this stuff. And a lot of us are failing that test in the heart area. And then Sean and I come around trying to correct people on, hey, it doesn't matter how well your Sabbath keeping looks if your heart is all jacked up with pride and condemnation and looking at people in the churches and be like, oh, they're all apostate, lawless pagans. Like, you're canceling out your own Sabbath keeping by having this terrible heart and attitude towards people. And of course we get attacked for that, but I'm realizing that's the spirit, that's the spirit that we're dealing with, because I got myself back into the New Testament in my daily readings, and I'm going through Jesus's parables, and I'm like, he is calling this spirit out constantly with the Pharisees, with this performance stuff, with this. It doesn't matter if you were in the field longer than the other guy. You don't get to sit there and say, well, I should get more wages than him. I was out here longer. I did it better. Like, he is addressing that very heart condition. So there's no evangelism in our crowd because we're being crippled by what I believe is an antichrist spirit and a spirit of Pharisees, So Sean and I we've been trying to address that spirit for many years, but we're definitely going hard against it this year, harder than we ever have before. And we're getting the kind of backlash and responses that one should expect when you go after these kind of spirits. But the goal is evangelism, and not just to people who don't have Christ. Guys, we have been trying to show you a way to evangelize to your friends and family in the churches the whole time we've been teaching you. Every time people ask us, how do you get them to see? And we're always like, the goal is not to go and try and make them see. The goal is to be an example that makes them want to come and ask you what you see and why you see it. So we've been trying.
6 years ago, we did our first video. How do I talk to my friends and family about Torah?
I think it was 5 or 6. Yeah. So we have been trying to tell you guys, look, there is a whole field to labor in of people who already believe in Jesus, but this community has so many teachers that have taught us that, oh, if they believe in Jesus, well, that's not the real Messiah anyways. They talk about them like enemies. So why would you go want to love your enemies just because Jesus told us to? But even that is wrong. Like, they're not even our enemies. So there's just a lot of, I think Satan has had a lot of snares ready for us, and we're falling for it.
All right, Emmanuel's asking about 2 offerings a day. Are they for sin? I'm guessing if you're asking about the morning and evening offerings, as Numbers 28 speaks about, they're called atonement offerings. So it'd be collectively for the atonement of the sin, the overarching concept of desecration of the sin of the people for the tabernacle and the temple that it dwells in their midst of, as well as for the people. So, but it's a general sense, whereas the people themselves are still required to come forward and confess their sins and bring their offerings and come before the Father. Do I have a teaching about Marian doctrines and their devotion amongst Catholics? No, I don't, but it's very simple. We disagree with it. We don't think that she's a co-redemptress. We don't believe that she should be prayed to. We don't believe that she is the immaculate conceived as the Son was. We don't believe that she was a perpetual virgin after she gave birth to Christ. We don't believe any of the Marian doctrines, honestly. So other than that she was a virgin when she conceived and gave birth to Christ, if that's one of them, which I can't remember, that would be the only one we might agree with as a statement of theology. But as far as the general concept of the Marian doctrines, we don't agree with them.
Yeah, we're not Mariologists.
Carmela's asking, who's the spirit in Ezekiel 1:12? Is it the angel? So in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse 12. Yeah, in my understanding in the past, this is what I thought of, that the spirit being referenced that's leading this whole beautiful procession of the mobile throne of Yahweh. Yeah, it would just be that there's an angel that goes before Yahweh. That's why all these things being described, that's why we've done our morning cup of context in the past, where we talked about Ezekiel's wheels. So you can put that in YouTube search bar, Kingdom of Context, Ezekiel's wheels, and it'll pop up when we give you our understanding of chapter 1, chapter 8, and chapter 10 in the book of Ezekiel as far as the translations and in comparison with the Septuagint. And you start to realize, oh, okay, it's actually just talking about that the angels that accompany his throne and go before him, the archangels, as well as the cherubim and the Sephanim and the Ophanim, which are all classes of angels described in 1st Enoch 70 and 71. So it's I would believe that the spirit being referenced is an angel leading the way, if you will, for the mobile throne of God to move. Yes, James. Take the dung out of your charcoal pile. That'd be great. All right, Redeemed is asking, how do y'all feel about Christian nationalism? Could the USA ever elect Christian government? How should believers respond to this idea floating around in conservative politics? Very simple. We've had a Christian government in the past.
Well.
The majority of all of our laws are based on biblical principles. I don't like the terminology of Judeo-Christian either, but when it comes down to it, the majority, because we understand the truth about what the Old New Testament are, it's one word of God through multiple different prophets and his son. So we understand that when they go to a law and they pull from like public indecency, they pull from a law from the Bible in order to establish that in the 1700s or the 1800s, that they're looking, that these are Christian men looking towards God's word to make a ruling on judgment, which becomes a law. They didn't look to the Quran. The early founders fought against the Quran. They didn't look to the Bhagavad Gita. They didn't look to any other religious document other than the Bible, by which many, many, many Christians formulated laws throughout the last 270 years. Should the Christian nationalist arguments is more specifically that we should only have Christians in government, and that would be the litmus test for all levels of rulership within the United States. That sounds wonderful, but I don't think that was the original idea either of the Constitution. It sounds nice. It sounds like a great platitude, but again, anyone can claim to be a Christian. It's about their fruit. And the biggest problem that you see throughout history is you're going to see people that claim to be Christians who then rule with tyranny because they're perverting something for their own sake. And the people that I've seen promoting and advocating for a purely Christian elected government also have very unique interpretations on how they would like these things being applied to our everyday lives, to which it limits the concept of argumentation amongst theology. So then you're right back to the Catholic system where they're killing you for heresies. And it also limits just basic freedom of speech as well as freedom of travel, a whole bunch of other things that would disagree with all other aspects, many, many other aspects of the Constitution. So I'm not in favor of it per se. I'm in favor of God rising men up within this system like we see done throughout the Bible, like Daniel, like Tobit, like Jonah, like Christ himself, good men and women like Ahikah, the cousin of Tobit, like the three Hebrews in Daniel chapter 1 and 2. I'm in favor of God using that system that he already effectively used in the scriptures and raising men up within these governmental systems to effect change, protect the innocent, and administer justice as far and wide as possible. What do you think, sweetie?
I think, as far as I'm not a Christian nationalist per se. I don't know what that term means. I mean, what does it just mean? You think that all government should be Christian?
Yeah. They believe every elected person in government should be Christian. That should be the litmus test.
Yeah, I agree that would be a great idea. That would be nice. I don't think it's realistic in terms of, for all the same reasons Sean just listed, like you're not going to know if someone's truly Christian or not. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and then let their fruit show me. I think that's the heart we're supposed to have. I don't think we're supposed to have a cynical, suspicious heart. I do think we're supposed to, if someone says they're a Christian, we're supposed to give them the benefit of that profession. And then they prove right or wrong as time goes on. In as much as we can vote against things that are not biblical, I would always encourage that on the local and state level where we actually have a say. If you have some kind of votes coming up for some kind of Sharia law type stuff, obviously I'd say go vote against that. I would say that a government based on biblical principles is going to be far better for everyone living under it than a government built on any other religion's principles. But do I think that it's some mission of Christians to save America? No, I don't think it's anyone's mission to save any nation per se. I think a lot of this stuff is going to play out whether we try to save it or not. We have to, that's why our hope must rest in the true country to come, the true nation we belong to.
What did we learn from Daniel?
Yes, that all those nations are going to be destroyed.
Well, no, in Daniel 2, Nebuchadnezzar learns that it is the Most High God who puts in rulership over the nations.
Yes.
It's not us.
Yeah. So, I think there are things that we can affect on a state and local level, but in terms of like world leaders and stuff, that's kind of a chessboard. I don't know that we've ever been privy to moving pieces on ourselves as citizens. But look, if you can vote on Christian principles in your state and local elections, that's what I've always encouraged people to do.
Hey, Peanuts, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Peanut Corn Galleria.
Guys, we're not saying that you can't build a house outside of town. We're just saying that
Yeah,
if you stay there and you don't ever share, you don't ever follow Christ's instructions to us to go to the people and share in any way whatsoever. Like if you're just staying there and reclusing, that's not what we're told to do. You're hiding your light under a bushel, like you're told not to do.
When Sean talks about that, he's kind of really referring to people who've created communes in our community where they're inviting people to just come live on land and kind of isolate as a cult is really what Sean is talking about. It's not just Sean and I want to go live on a mountain somewhere. We want to have a nice private piece of property somewhere, but that doesn't mean that we're going to invite people to just come live there. And that's where we're going to practice out our faith. And then that's that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I said is asking about Jude 1, 9, and 10. And how does it apply to our faith today? Give me 1 second. I'll put it on screen for us.
Yeah, I agree with a comment in there that America fell a long time ago when they agreed on a central bank. I would definitely agree that it's way less about votes and way more about banks. 1913.
That's what Andrew Jackson warned us about.
Yeah. And Lincoln.
So verse 9 and 10 says, but even the archangel Michael, when disputed with the devil of the body of Moses, did not presume to bring a slanderous charge against him, but said, the Lord rebuke you. These men, however, slander what they do not understand, like irrational animals. They'll be destroyed by the things they do instinctively. Okay, so you're asking me, how may it apply to our walk today? Well, for one, we would it's definitely an encouragement against slander, and it takes an utmost extreme example to give us this idea about men who reject authority and want to slander things, specifically when there's an argument between the devil and Michael himself. Even Michael is not bringing slanderous charges against the devil because he knows how to walk in righteousness. He just rebukes him. So he rebukes what the devil's trying to do, but he doesn't bring slanderous charges against why the devil may want this body. So he just rebukes him that he can't have it. So that's something to consider, I would say. And the concept of men being compared to irrational animals that are destroyed by the things they do instinctively is the instinctive things not being the things of Yahweh, because you have to learn those. They're not always instinctive. So you have to learn the ways of Yahweh for righteousness and holiness, and that it becomes your new instinct versus men who reject the ways of God, men who walk around slandering and reject authority, defiling their bodies, doing the base things of this world that are taught to them by unclean spirits, which turns them into the behavior likened unto animals. So clearly we want to stay away from that as well. But I think the bigger issue that I think needs to be pointed out is just the fear that I believe is trying to be imposed here by Jude to say, not even the archangel Michael himself was bold enough to try to slander the accuser of the brethren, the one who's more than likely guilty, the one who's more than likely going to do something nefarious with Moses' body. Not even did he then propose that he was going to do the nefarious thing without knowledge of it, by therefore slandering the intentions and misrepresenting Satan. Instead, all he said was, you can't have it, the Lord rebuked you, right? This is the idea that they're fighting over the body. So, and of course, you see this, I think it's in the Apocalypse of Moses, is what you see this in. No, the Testament of Moses.
Okay. The
Apocalypse of Moses was also called Jubilees, but the Testament of Moses is where you see this reference here. So to me, that's how I understand how it's so beneficial to our walk today. Is we're not allowed to just start making up intentions about other people and then applying sin to them as a result of that. That's called slander. And I mean, we just read Susanna, a story about this. You know what I'm saying? Wicked people make up false intentions about others without proof, without evidence, in order to demonize them. And it does lead to the death penalty if we were under the judges of Israel in ancient days. So this is a serious, serious sin that men of righteousness should not engage in. So we don't just get to make up definitions of sin. This is the part where we lovingly been trying to tell the Torah community for years. You don't get to just make up your own definition of sin. You have to abide by what the Father says. You want to be Torah observant and uphold the Torah, make sure you're staying within what he said was sin, and don't become the Sanhedrin in the days of Christ by claiming, oh, they picked food on the Sabbath. They're guilty of sin, breaking the Sabbath.
Yeah.
No, they weren't. You're just making up sin from your extra guardrails that you put in place. So this is another problem that we've seen within Torah communities is they instinctively start adding extra guardrails because of their fears, superstitions, whatever. It may not be sin. I'm just going to stay far away because, I don't want to be seen doing idolatrous stuff. Yeah. Wait a minute. Didn't you just say it's not sin?
Yeah.
But now you're acting like it's idolatry and saying it's idolatry. And it's just an extra guardrail for you. Not saying you got to do it. That's fine. If that's your conviction, you want the extra guardrail, do that. It's fine.
Be clear that it's your conviction.
But make sure that you don't hold other people to your guardrail because it's not actual sin. That's where the problems come in. That's where you get a burden that is not the one that is light and easy that Christ taught. All right, Redeemed is asking, how do y'all feel about... Oh, we already did that one. All right, Guitar Man's asking, what's the difference between Samyaza, Azazel, and Gadriel, who seem to be Satan and Enoch? So in chapters 6 through 15 in First Enoch, Samyaza is the leader over the men or the angels that took wives. So Samyaza took a wife, and everyone under his command took a wife. Azazel, it does not say he took a wife. And he does not seem to be spoken of as being under the command of Azazel. So first part of your question, Samyaza and Azazel are two different people. Where I believe Gadriel is another name for Satan because of what we see in Isaiah 65, where it speaks about the god Gad, G-A-D, which is a early form of Gadriel, or excuse me, a later form of Gadriel. And I believe that Gadriel was the earlier form, the earlier variant form. But the point is, it was an epithet for Satan or for Azazel because it was the god of fortune that the nations would worship, basically Baal. It's just another variant form of the name of Baal that the nations would worship, and they would pour wine oblations out to as they worship the host of heaven in order to seek prosperity and good fortune. And so Azazel is Gadriel, as mentioned in 1 Enoch 69, in my understanding, my opinion, which would line up with Christ's explanation to us, thou Satan was a liar from the beginning, as the other concepts as we see about the one Azazel called Satan other places in the Bible as being the one who tempted Eve, whereas Samyaza was kind of separately judged with a different judgment. He's been locked in Tartarus since the flood, basically. So whereas Azazel, Gadriel, also called Satan, the dragon, the accuser of the brethren, he's the one that was left out and still roams around. He's only going to be locked up at the second coming. Hopefully that's a quick, short, efficient answer for you there. All right. Emmanuel's asking about the daily sacrifices. Hang on, let me take this off screen. He's asking, is the 2-a-day done by lesser priests and the Day of Atonement only for Jesus? Jesus would be overseeing whomever does the dailies. Jesus would oversee that. So it doesn't tell us in Leviticus, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It doesn't tell us who does the dailies. So I would imagine the lesser priests do the dailies, since they're not doing them inside the Holy of Holies, which is the Leviticus 16 Day of Atonement that you're referencing. They're doing them in the bronze altar in the outer courtyard, just in the general holy place. And so I would imagine the lesser priesthood would take care of those, and it's overseen and made sure everything's done right by the supervisor of the house of God, which is what Christ is referenced as in Hebrews 3 and 5. But again, it doesn't actually explain in the Torah how involved the high priest was in all of these different required sacrifices. But there's a reason why he was given help. I would imagine there's delegation, I would imagine. Man, why does it keep doing that? Signet, I have no clue, brother, where Ahijah and the other Shemay prophets went. I apologize. I don't know their outcome. Do you ever heard anything about that?
No.
Me neither. All right. Depart from Evil is asking, was Christ purely a man like Unitarians believe, or was Christ pre-existing since before the world? If Christ was pre-existing, what was he doing in heaven until he came into the world? So we currently hold the position that there are scriptures that teach us he was an existent conscious being with the Father in heaven before he became a man. We believe this is what is being spoken of in 1 Timothy 3:16 as the mystery of godliness, that he was manifested in the flesh, seen on by angels. So what was he doing? I believe he tells us in John 18:38 and 39 when he's talking to Pilate, and he says that he does have a kingdom. It's not of this realm, and that he is a king, as Pilate says. And so I believe that he is referencing his position as he's not the Almighty when he's in heaven. He's still the Son, but he would be king, just like in an empire where there's an emperor, there's kings underneath the emperor. So the Almighty, in the analogy, in that metaphor, the Almighty would be like, he is the God of all gods. That's why he's called the Most High God. In Deuteronomy 10:12, he's called the God of gods. And then under him, his son would have been in a position of rulership as king over heaven, obviously doing the will of the Father. This is how we can make statements like in John 6, where he says, I only do and say what I've seen my Father do and say.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like,
when did that happen?
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, that's our understanding. But he would have been like the Unitarians teach. I'm having to break this down because of his question is kind of loaded. So I'm having to break this down. So Unitarians, the majority of Unitarians teach he did not pre-exist before he was born as a man. And when he became a man, he's not hypostatically linked like the Trinitarians claim, that he was just a man of flesh and blood without any special God essence. We also teach that he was just a man of flesh and blood without any special God essence, but we do believe he pre-existed before he was born of a man. Thanks, sweetie.
Physically, biologically speaking, at his incarnation, we believe he was a man of flesh and blood. Just to be clear, he wasn't just a man, though. He was like clearly the Messiah and a very special man. I forget what else I was going to say. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Isn't that so? This is when Sean has tried to explain this to a Unitarian. How, yes, we believe that Christ existed as Elohim, meaning spirit being, before he put down that nature and surrendered it for a time to come down and come into human flesh. And the Unitarian was like, that's not possible. That can't be done. How can that happen? Like, because based on man's philosophy, a spirit being cannot somehow be uncreated as a spirit being and recreated as a flesh being. Like, that doesn't fit in the logic of man. But Paul called it the mystery of godliness. So it is a mystery. We can't explain how it physically happens. That's why it's a miracle. That's why it's so wonderful. But it's addressed. The mystery itself is addressed. Paul calls it the mystery of godliness. How does this happen? How does, the Son of God exist as a spirit being, Elohim, before coming as an earthy being made of, the dust of the earth? How does that happen? Mankind cannot know. And so of course it doesn't fit into philosophical logic of man. So
Well, that's why I've tried to give the example that you're right. It's not expressed to us. It's just referenced as a mystery.
yeah.
But we see the precedent with the promise of the covenant to be resurrected into
Yes.
a glorified Elohim
Yes.
in a spiritual being, no longer a part of the dust of the earth.
That's our promise.
While you maintain who you are in your
Mhm.
identity. So, which would be considered your soul.
And Unitarians
for less
believe
of a-
that's going to happen at the resurrection, right?
They just don't believe it can happen the other way.
the other way.
Yeah. James is asking, is there a reason to believe that Yeshua wore tefillin? Not, I've never seen anything that indicates that he wore them. That's, I would love to do, I need to do a deep dive on where that came from,
Yeah.
where that tradition came from.
Yeah. It's a good topic.
People would say, well, it's, how dare you, Sean? It's from Exodus. But I don't know if it's likened unto tefillin on Exodus.
Yeah, it's
not saying that they were instructed to do it.
It's not explicitly commanded that way in that's their interpretation of
Yeah.
how to do that command.
Yeah, it makes me, but nowhere does it say wrap your arm in your forehead with the little black box.
Yeah.
Like that throws up some weirdness to me, because you definitely can't fit the Torah scroll in that thing. All right, Mike is asking, why do people in churches deny grafting in and being called Israel, but want to be called Gentile? Mike, brother, they just had bad teaching.
That's what they've been taught.
That's it, man. That we just need, if we have the opportunity, we can share the truth with them, bring them aside like Priscilla and Aquila and show them the way of God more accurately. But we just build relationship with them and love on them. And people can walk around with incredibly loving hearts that want to give to the poor, honor their father and mother, worship only Yahweh and his son, go out and affect the world with the love of Christ, but also carry bad doctrine with them. It's just, this is how Yahweh, through his son, who's head over the church, has moved throughout history for the whole time. Can anyone point out to me when after the apostles died, when did anyone have perfect doctrine? Like it gets rough. Like you get into that second, third century, it starts getting real rough. You start seeing imperfect doctrine jumping up everywhere, and stuff that you can easily compare and contrast with the scriptures and go, ooh, wait a minute, why were they teaching that? Like they're wrong on 9 out of 10 things with that 10th thing. Why did they stop teaching that? Like, why did they change
right on 9 out of 10
Excuse me.
things?
Yeah, they're right
Okay.
about 9 out of 10. The point is, we still see that today in all the different denominations of Christianity. Some of them get some things right, some of them get some things wrong, and it's just Christ still works through all of it.
I would say that there has been a false dichotomy that has been being created by Judaism from the time of the book of Acts, where there was already a religion that was being created at that point that we now call Judaism, that was creating this false dichotomy of these are for us, those are for you. And so Christians came into this confusion that was already being created by the Jews, where the Jews eventually said, no, now you can't even come to our synagogues. You cannot do our feasts with us. These are not for you. So there was a narrative created 2,000 years ago, not originally with Gentile Christians. This narrative is still taught today in Judaism, you guys. We've been trying to tell you guys this. The Torah crowd has created this narrative that it's all Christians' fault that Jews don't convert to Jesus, because Christians created a lawless Jesus, and Jews would convert if he wasn't lawless. And I'm like, he wasn't lawless when he was here, and there were Jews who would not convert to him, who would not believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
So this narrative goes back. It's like a generational curse at this point, that this has been being taught since before the Christian church was even established. So that's one thing I want to point out, that this narrative goes all the way back, and it was confirmed for Christians at the time by Jews. Jews were saying, Christians were like, we don't do those things. And Jews were like, yeah, you don't do these things. So everybody acts like it was just Christians' fault. And I'm like, it kind of started with the Jews. Now, I also want to say, in their minds, Christians don't deny grafting in. They think they believe they're grafted into the tree of Israel. They just define that all differently. They just don't see it the way we do, where we think, oh, you graft into this nation, which means you graft into this culture, which means you assimilate to that culture. Christians in the churches aren't taught that. They taught there is a delineation even once you are grafted in. That's where we get Messianic Judaism, where that encourages identity markers. And if you're a Jew who converts to Christ, come be a Messianic Jew, where you can keep all your identity markers. No one's going to tell you, oh, you're free of the seat, you're free of the Sabbath. But then you're also fellowshipping with Christians who they may believe in keeping the Sabbath, but they may not believe it's obligated for them as Christians. And they may not believe that they're supposed to tell other Christians, oh, you have to do this or you're in sin. So even in their minds in the churches, they don't necessarily deny the grafting in. Again, it's just they define it in a different way based on that ancient false dichotomy I was telling you about that came originally from Judaism. So,
and that early dichotomy got ramped up to 1,000 after Christ resurrected and ascended to heaven.
yes.
And everyone started going out and preaching in the name of Christ. That's what you see in the book of Acts, chapter 4 and 5, when they pull aside Peter and John and James and tell them, stop teaching in the name of Christ.
Yeah.
They didn't say they were teaching against the law of Moses. They just said, stop teaching in the name of Christ. And that got amplified further on in the first century to the point where you have the Council of Jamnia, which they declared officially throughout all the synagogues and all of Judaism, throughout all the regions. No Christians can come in anymore. This was prophesied by Christ in Matthew 16 and other places. They'd be kicked out of the synagogues. Then at the turn of the second century, late first century, early second century, Rabbi Akiva comes in. He's considered the great reformer of ancient Judaism, to where he solidifies, we're going to have our books. We have our ways and our customs. Christians have their books and they have their ways and their customs. And he was very dogmatic and continued with keeping Christians away from the synagogues and driving this wedge even further with different identities between the two groups. Well, Tony, brother, may God bless our brother Scott.
Truly.
He's been big mad at me for a while. He thinks that we're teaching dangerous things. So I just pray that God blesses him and opens his heart and mind to the fullness of God's word. Okay.
What book should we read next? Let's see. We've done Zechariah, Daniel. We did 1st and 2nd Samuel. Should we do something from the New Testament? Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
We were trying to go through the middle of the Bible, remember?
Should we do more? Well,
so yeah, I
just saying.
I already got ideas, but if you're just trying to make conversation with the crowd, I already have ideas on where we're going to go with this.
Where are we going to go?
I think we should read Jeremiah.
Okay.
Yep. We should go through Jeremiah.
Okay.
Jean, it's a great question. She's asking, what do you consider the seal of God? The ones we see in Revelation 9. I think it's the same thing you see in Ezekiel chapter 8 and 9, where the angels goes through and he marks with the seal of God those who are righteous. And it's because of their behavior. And it doesn't seem to be an outward seal that everybody can see. Only the angels can see it. So this is why those who be Revelation 9:4 is, let me see here. Make sure we're comparing apples to apples here with your scriptural mention. Because in Revelation 7, it talks about those being sealed with God. Yeah. So the Revelation 9:4, the things that go out to harm those on the earth who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads, that's going to be the people with the seal of God in their foreheads in that verse is going to be the people in Revelation 13 that are rejecting the mark of the beast and are being willing to be martyred for it. So this is why they can't just force it on them. If there's someone that is abiding in the seal of God, which is their behavior, they're holding to the testimony of Jesus and the commandments of God, Revelation 12:17, then they can be martyred, but they cannot be forced to take this mark, which I believe Revelation 9 is speaking of the mark that you see in Revelation 13 that comes through the second beast. That anyone who takes the mark is going to participate in the wrath of the Lamb. So if you're resisting even unto martyrdom because of your behavior, your testimony, and the commandments of God, your testimony in Christ, then you are resisting this at this moment here. They cannot force it on you. I think that's what it's trying to communicate to us. They cannot force the mark of the beast on you. But those who take it, that's where it's going to be like this torment of a sting of a scorpion for 5 months. I feel like it's going to do something to them physiologically, biologically, which also will cause them to participate in the wrath of the Lamb, which is drawing them to the land of Israel when Christ is turning now to try to fight Christ at his return. So it's kind of like that's my understanding of it, to try to give you a little bit more well-rounded answer there. Yeah, I've got the Book of Mormon like right over here, but I don't think we're going to be reading it for Sabbath Fellowship, guys. You may see me do it in the future. You may see me do a special whole series where I read the Book of Mormon, break it down for you, and show you through Scripture why it's not cool and not scriptural, but not for Sabbath Fellowship. I've got to sneeze. Bill, I think the mark that I was just referencing is you doing the commandments of God. You having a heart circumcised to God. I don't think it's just the Sabbath. The Sabbath can be one of those because you're abiding in one of the commandments of God, but I don't think it's just that. It's you living your life dedicated to God, which means it's going to fall into your understanding as he brings you in, like we talked about earlier in the show. People come into their faith not with perfect understanding. The shepherd who brought that new sheep into the fold, it's his job to get them and bring them to a better understanding. This is why we have gifts of the Spirit. This is why you have ministries that are being led by gifts of the Spirit, of which Christ is head over this process. So this is why not everybody is on the same path at the same time. Like, this is literally what they're discussing and talking about in Acts 15 when they talk about, well, just make sure the converts are doing these four basic things. They're going to hear Moses read in the synagogues every Sabbath, meaning they're going to pick up the rest as they keep going. So this is why we're told, even by Peter, who's a part of that discussion in Acts 15, we're told in 2 Peter 3:18 that we're to continue to grow in the knowledge of God. That means people are going to start off with very little knowledge, right? So they're going to have to grow in the knowledge of God and get their discipleship better and better. So there will be people that are under the seal of God from wherever they were drawn into faith and repentance, who may not truly understand the Sabbaths. And that has been abundant throughout observable history and in modernity. It's literally how I started. That's how I started. That's how many of the people in China who are being killed today are doing it. Like, they may not understand perfect doctrine yet. They're just literally, many of them don't even have Bibles. They're memorizing entire books of the Bible because they don't have a Bible.
Yeah.
So they can just, that's how they're passing it around, is memorizing the books, which is insane. Redeemed is asking, do you have tips with staying engaged with reading and studying for someone who has a hard time staying focused and just plain doesn't like reading? Audio Bibles, brother or sister. Audio Bibles is one that you can do. Another one would be you can have someone flog you every time you look away from reading. No, I'm just playing. Now, audio Bibles, what would you say, sweetie?
Audio Bible is great. Also kind of hard to focus on sometimes if you have problems with, straying in your thoughts. I would say lower your expectations for yourself. I was feeling like, oh, I'm not studying enough. And when I think of study, I have that brain that's been programmed by a public school system that study has to look a certain way, and it has to be like deep and involved. And I've got to have a notebook and a pen and a highlighter and my, my phone in my hand so I could search, the concordance, and it's got to be all involved. And I realized study can be as simple as 1 to 2 chapters a day, period. Just reading, just 1 chapter a day. If that's all you can manage, 1 chapter a day, and I have managed to get my daily bread every single day since I set that low expectation for myself that all I got to do is read. My goal is 2 chapters a day. All I got to do is read 2 chapters a day and I'm good. I'm fed with the word. God will reveal, whatever needs to be revealed to me through that reading that day. And I don't have to write things down. I don't have to get all involved. And it's been very easy for me to pay attention to just 1 or 2 chapters at a time, instead of trying to take on this big endeavor of, some sort of lofty goal that really isn't for the layperson. The person who is going to be sitting with the notebook and doing, hours of study is someone who's called to teach, like Sean. If you're not called to teach, then you don't have to put that pressure on yourself to, have your study look a certain way. So I would just encourage you to start with 1 chapter a day, man.
Okay, Mr. Drone is asking, I'd love to hear Sean's definition of spirit, like in 1 John 4, 1 through 3. All right, so we'll put this on screen. So 1 John 4, 1 through 3 says, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they're from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you've heard is coming and which is already in the world at this time. So there's 3 different spirits being mentioned here, okay? One is the overarching spirit of God, like in verse 2. That's going to be Matthew 10:20. That's the Father's Spirit who is sent out for gifts of the Spirit. There's also every spirit in verse 1 that's being mentioned is that we need to test would be the unclean spirits teaching false doctrines, whispering lies to people, that type of thing. And then, of course, there is a spirit that does confess Jesus came in the flesh and that he is from God. That would be if you do have an encounter with an angel who's an actual spiritual being, Hebrews 1:14, then you're speaking with someone that is approved by God, sent by God. So I believe it's speaking about 3 different types of spirit ideas here: unclean spirits, good angels being sent as messengers, and actually the Father's Spirit, which is the one that overshadowed Mary in Matthew 1:18 and impregnated Mary with his son, so that he was actually be born into the world. That's my understanding of that passage. Hopefully it's helpful to you. No, Bill, the Spirit of God and the Spirit of Jesus is the same concept. It says in Revelation, Spirit of Jesus is the Spirit of prophecy. So it's just the same thing. He's flowing. The Son is flowing in his Father's Spirit. He has it without limit. He's glorified. He's resurrected. He has that Spirit at not only a deposit, but he has the fullness thereof, because he's now been resurrected and glorified as a first fruits of the promise of the covenant of resurrection. And as a result of that, he has access in his position of high priest to give out gifts of the Spirit. We believe this is what Peter's trying to express to us in Acts chapter 2, 31 through 33, where this Jesus who was raised from the dead is exalted to the right hand of the Father, who is now giving out these gifts that you now see and hear, the gifts of the Spirit. Same thing with 1 Corinthians 11, speaking about the gifts of the Spirit, which it says are from God, but yet Peter just explained that Jesus is the one divvying them out because he's head over the church. He has access to God's Spirit to give it out. So kind of like in a similar way we see in Numbers chapter 11 when, not Numbers chapter 11. Where is it? Is it Exodus 30, 38? Where it's talking about Moses, where he says, I will take some of the Spirit that's on you and give it to him. I think it's talking about Moses to Joshua. Either way,
I think that might have been Numbers 11.
Is it in Numbers 11? Because that's when the big dose of Spirit drops out on all the elders. Yeah, it is. I will take some of the Spirit that's on you and give it to them, plural, to all the elders that showed up, the 70. plus the 2 Eldad and Medad who stayed in the camp, so the 72 total. So, but it's still just the Spirit of God,
Excuse me.
Spirit of the Father, and he works through his hierarchical level of agents down below the Father. That's how he divvies out his Spirit. I love you, sweetie.
Love you, babe.
I don't see any more questions, guys. Military veteran, that's going to be the same stars in his hand in Revelation chapter 1, the 7 spirits of God that are with him, that are under his control and authority. These are the 7 archangels of God. Remember, the word spirit is synonymous with an angel of heaven because they're spiritual beings. And these are under his control now because he's, as Hebrews 1 says, he's been given an authority greater than even the angels in heaven. That's Hebrews 1, 4, and 5. So that's the the synonymous language that you're reading in Revelation 1 and Revelation 5 about the 7 spirits that are under Christ's control now, under his authority.
I should probably email you.
Yeah, Bill, you can email us if you'd like to. Email me and we'll be glad to. I would also, I guess the first thing I would say is, email me. I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Email me.
Yeah, I think I'm.
All right, guys. Appreciate you for being here on Sabbath Fellowship. I think we're going to end it for here today. Thank you guys for, keeping it civil and loving in the live chat. And we just hope that you're blessed by these. That's our goal, is that you are excited to read the Bible. You see how it's all relevant. It's all one big story. Hopefully it'd be for your, hopefully it's going to be something that you take serious interest in your life. If you haven't already, if you just are a new believer and you're trying to figure out, man, this Bible seems overwhelming. We hope that these types of open discussions and fellowships are trying to, smooth out some of the perceived wrinkles and show you that it's not that overwhelming. It's all one big story. It's all interconnected and related. So appreciate you guys being here. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Just again, for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning, I just apologize for being. I feel embarrassed.
You don't have to do that again,
we don't have very many people at the start. You asked me if there's anything I want to say. That's what I want to say. For anyone who wasn't here, I just apologized to everyone for being overly emotional last week. I felt like a spiritual attack. Like, it's like right as soon as the show started, I like all of a sudden felt like, if anyone has PTSD out there and knows what it's like to have a crying fit, where it's like your body wants to cry, even though you're not necessarily in your head feeling like you need to, that's what happened. And I just am sorry. And it got back to me that some people thought I was heated. And so I just wanted to be clear. I wasn't heated. I really was feeling very overly emotional and sad.
She was. We had to pray before we started.
Feeling the weight of the spirits in this community that we're trying to fight against, and just a lot of all the pressure from that. So I want to apologize for losing my composure, because I do believe I'm supposed to have an example set before you guys of not losing my composure. So that is what I would like to say before we go, that I apologize for that. And I'm trying to get better self-control. And next time I feel that way, I'll probably just let Sean know, even if we're right about to go live, I probably need to sit this one out. So, and I just appreciate everyone who stays around to hear us out. I just appreciate people who will hear the matter before answering it. And even if you disagree with us after us, if you don't make it a point of contention, I just appreciate you even more than people who come to agree with us after hearing us out. If you're someone who doesn't agree with us and you can still fellowship with us and not make it an issue, you're gold. You're like gold. So I just want to express my appreciation for people like you. So that's that. I'm done.
All right.
I'll
Thank you,
shut
guys. Appreciate your prayers. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you here next week.
Yes, for Jeremiah.
That's right.
When we start in Jeremiah.
But also, do not miss here in 3 days on the 6th when we do our video on early early roots of Christmas in the early church, or the roots of Christmas in the early church, as we go over the history and the traditions, both, which is the video everyone's been waiting for. Not everybody, but our Ways of the Nations video is done pretty well. I think it's like over 10,000 views now.
That's good.
So it's done well in angering people, because we refuse to call something that's not sin. We refuse to call it sin when it's not sin. So, but anyway, but people are interested about where the traditions came from and how early did the Christians start observing this Feast of Nativity concept. And so we're going to go through all that, and it might be a 2-3 hour presentation, but
It's a lot to go through.
You need to hear the matter before judging it. You need to actually know the truth. And so this is why we're going to be doing that. And hopefully you guys show up for that as well. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Shabbat shalom, guys. Have a great week. Love you.